So tell me, yeah? So do we still have to hide who we are? No, silly. We don't have to hide anymore. Really? Our dad? He made sure of that.
One of the most controversial aspects of transgenderism is trans kids. And this comes, from the most part, from the understanding that children that young do not know what they're getting into. For example, it's pretty obvious that this video is scripted, and that the father and the child are both heavily featured in this channel, or in this TikTok account. And just like family bloggers monetize and use their children to make the living, so too do the parents of these trans kids, and quite a few of them end up doing this in a well-meaning way, in that a lot of transgender topics, a lot of transgender people insist that it is you support transition all the way or your kid will kill themselves. And of course, what parent wants to have their child kill themselves? But I think it's important to look deeper into this than just there are trans kids and that's just part of what being trans is like. And it's important to view this as a social phenomenon, a social contagion, because unlike homosexuality, which is innate and unchangeable, transgenderism is a social phenomenon that is influenced by the fact that we live in a heavily gendered society. So let's watch a couple more of these videos and let's discuss.
A 4-year-old child who was born female at birth announces their transition at this.
The only reason this is viral, the only reason that people care about this is because they have been inflamed by people to believe that this family is giving their child hormones.
See, children this young haven't gone through puberty and they're not having hormones of their own yet. So only those who are really truly uneducated in how the human body works thinks that a 3 or 5-year-old child is on hormones. What they have an issue with is that this child will eventually get on hormones. This child is being taught that any sign of gender nonconformity means that they can't be a woman or they can't be a man. They're being taught the rigidity of gender roles, which is a negative thing to teach. You're teaching your children stereotypes, that all women have long hair and love femininity and love degradation and being submissive, that all men love being dominant and bold, and therefore if you deviate from either of those things, then you're not a man or you're not a woman. That is a dangerous thing to teach, and that is what people are upset about. In addition to the fact that kids like this will eventually take hormones, and once you start taking hormones, you end up down this path that leads to eventually full-on transition.
Also, I'm coming to you live from my childhood bedroom, and I am off of my hiatus. Woohoo! I just had to yell at the transphobes. Anyway, here we go. No one, and I mean no one, is giving a 4-year-old child hormones. This family is letting their child explore their gender identity at a young age.
And why can't the child just wear whatever clothes they want to wear without being told that it changes their biological sex? Why does the child have to be taught that stereotypes are the way to define whether a person is male or female?
And you know what? A lot of children do this anyway.
Yeah, a lot of children think that they're going to be astronauts or say that they're a cat or a snake or a unicorn princess, but we don't decide to put them down a path leading to medical transition because they say these things. Just because a kid says that they're a cat or a piece of corn doesn't mean that we decide, okay, time to go surgically implant cat ears.
Because gender is what? A construct. Whether or not you are supporting of your child is going to explore their gender identity. And even if they end up coming out later in life, they did the exploration when they were a kid. The difference here is that this family is supporting them through that process.
The difference is this family is profiting off of this child's process of having fun and having an imagination. Literally every single one of these trans children end up having these YouTube or Twitter or TikTok or whatever accounts. They end up being spokespeople. And the thing is, when you put your kid in the limelight like that, we already know how it does to actors and kids who are doing this as a career. Why would you do that to your own child and force them down this path that they don't have to take? You can literally just tell your kid, yes, you can wear that outfit with the shark on it, or you can wear the one with the dress. Whatever outfit you like, and it doesn't change anything. It's the fact that you're adding ideology to this that you don't have to.
Which is new. Our society is built on this structured binary.
Yeah, because there are two sexes, male or female, and the female part of the population has historically, for pretty much as long as civilization has been around, been oppressed on the basis of their ability to give birth. So yeah, there is a binary of genders because there's a binary of sexes. There is no third zygote, there is no third sex, and there is no third gender.
Families have these godforsaken gender reveal parties. Before the child is born, people are looking at microscopic pictures of their child, trying to dissect whether or not that's a penis or not. People are telling their kids that they're gonna start dating their best friend's kid while in uterus. So not many people have gotten to this point. And it is a wonderful thing for this child that they have a family willing to explore this with them. Because even if this kid decides that they are not trans, this family will accept them. And they'll have access to the love and care that so many people don't have. And once again, let's go back to the fact that they are not providing them with hormones.
Yet.
If anything, a child would be provided with puberty blockers, which again are not harmful. They are not hormones, they do not change any aspect of your body.
Except they do. They lead to osteoporosis and they create a lowered IQ, which is a pretty big thing. Not to mention that if you don't let your child develop naturally through puberty, they might not ever be able to reach the end goal of puberty, which is the ability to have biological children. Jazz Jennings will probably never even be able to have a vaginoplasty because his wiener never grew past a child's size because he was on puberty blockers. I hate this lie that puberty blockers are this harmless. No, they're harmful. They're very harmful. They do have an irreversible effect.
That's exactly what they don't do. They block hormones. Wow. Ha! Hormone blockers have been used on cisgendered children for decades.
Yeah, it's been used to help short kids grow taller or to stop precocious puberty. And in those kids who took it, they ended up with osteoporosis and brittle bones. They ended up with very severe side effects that definitely were not outweighed by the benefit of growing a few inches taller.
They are used so that someone has the time to understand who they are, and so that they don't begin the process of puberty before they understand that.
You don't get to pick and choose if you consent or want puberty. It's a natural process that's going to happen whether you want it to or not. And if you try to halt that process, you face issues. You face medical issues. In the same way that we all age and we can't stop the aging process. It doesn't matter if you don't want to get older. It's going to happen either way.
And then once they understand that, they can put them onto the proper hormones or just stop taking them. All while talking to a mental health professional. The transphobes who are against this are always talking about how they need to have their parental rights protected, and how all they want is parental rights for their own children, and to not be groomed by the 2S LGBTQIA. But girl, where are these people's parental rights? You're mad about this family's personal decision to let their family explore their gender identity.
Yeah, people are upset that this family is pushing their child onto a path to medically and socially transition, which will 100% lead to mental health issues and potentially health issues if they decide to go the medical route. This isn't just a matter of I disagree about what religion you'd raise your child in. This is I disagree with you abusing your child, and particularly abusing them for fame, for attention.
It's almost like it's not about parental rights and it's about not liking trans people. Until you stop picking out your child's wedding dress before they're even outside of a stomach, maybe we shouldn't be throwing the grooming stone around, because the grooming is coming from inside the house.
People like this annoy me because they always see this debate as being either trans and liberal versus conservative, and the radical feminist stance of, hey, all gender is bad. Yeah, kids shouldn't be getting boob jobs or mastectomies. We shouldn't be putting kids in dresses and telling them it makes them a girl, or telling them that because they're a girl they have to wear a dress. They only see it in the one way of you're conservative or you are trans, and you don't seem to understand that you guys have more in common than radical feminists have in common with conservatives. You don't seem to get that, because all of the gender is bad. All of it is stereotypes. All of it harms both girls and boys. All of it is bad.
It's so eye-opening. When Elliot was this age, he showed no interest in anything girly, which makes sense now. And I remember thinking, Maybe he's just a tomboy. He knew exactly who he was. I just didn't know it yet. So it's fun now, having a little girl as well, and being able to do these things. I love having a boy. But boy, these girly things, they just make my heart melt. But I will accept her no matter what.
Why can't you just accept gender nonconformity in your child? Why can't you just let your child play with makeup or not play with makeup, wear a dress or wear pants, without saying that that somehow is an intrinsic value ascribed to their soul that was placed in the wrong body, and therefore you must go ahead and lead them down this path of, hey, actually you should hate your body because it's not the opposite of what it is? I don't understand how you can make these kind of videos and not realize how stupid you sound. Realize how bigoted you sound. You sound exactly the same as the conservatives you supposedly hate. You can just let your child play with whatever and not say that that's an inherent judgment on who they are.
Kids can't decide that they're transgender. They're too young. Their brains haven't even developed, like the part of the brain, like it's not developed. So you're probably talking about the prefrontal cortex, right? Well, it's a good thing you're talking to somebody who has a degree from Harvard in psychology, specifically cognitive neuroscience. So the prefrontal cortex, or the PFC, does not mature into mid to late 20s. You're correct that it's not quite mature in kids yet. Yeah, but what does the PFC actually do? One of the primary functions of the PFC is inhibition, stopping us from doing things that would otherwise violate social norms. This can be really useful because sociality is really important to humans, but it can also stop us from being ourselves, especially when being ourselves violates social norms.
And it can also mean that you are unable to understand the implications of saying, yeah, I'll take this drug that will sterilize me when you are 15. I understand that you are a teacher or you were taught at Harvard, but I know what the prefrontal cortex does, and you're completely ignoring the fact that we don't let children drink alcohol. We don't let them get tattoos. We don't let them do drastic things like jumping out of planes or donating kidneys because they don't have the ability to fully understand the implications of that.
I bet you and other adults that you know have stopped yourself from doing something because it might violate social norms. Well, yeah, that's your PFC. So yes, kids do not have a mature PFC yet, but I argue that better neurologically equips them to be themselves because they do not have those inhibitory brain structures yet to stop them from being who they are. They are just who they are. And if you want a little bit more neuroscience, the PFC is widely regarded as the decision-making center of the brain. Guess what? Being trans is not a decision.
Yes, it is. Trans is an identification that you have. Gender dysphoria is not a choice. But you know what? It's a mental illness that is brought upon you because of social norms, because of how we are socially affected by those around us. So instead of medicalizing gender nonconformity, you know what we could easily do? We could make it normal to be gender nonconforming. We could not pass judgment on girls who have short hair, or boys who have long hair, or girls who want to wear pants and play with G.I. Joe instead of Barbie. That's an easier way to go about it. It doesn't involve creating an industry that has billions of dollars invested on people hating themselves.
It is just an identity that solidifies around the ages of 3 to 5 years old, according to all major medical, psychological, and psychiatric associations.
All of which go by the affirmative model, which basically says that because the child believes it, we're going to listen to them over any other person's judgment of the situation. Just because psychiatry says something doesn't mean that it's true. Psychiatry also said that hysteria and traveling wombs were a thing. Psychiatry has been built on abuse of impoverished populations, particularly women. Just because science says something doesn't mean that it's correct or that it's not going to be updated or changed in the coming years, like it has over the past couple years, as Tavistock and other gender clinics have been shown to be basically fostering a social trend, a social contagion, which a lot of people are backing away from once they realize that, taking all these hormones hasn't fixed the fact that I have PTSD or depression.
So let's stop using these half-baked misunderstandings of cognitive neuroscience to put down trans kids and instead recognize that science unequivocally supports trans kids. You just don't.
See, now that I have raised your blood pressure along with mine, I want to point out that not everybody is like this. Not everybody has drank the Kool-Aid. There are thankfully enough people out there who are saying this is weird, this is bad, let's take a deeper look at this. And I'm glad that I was able to find some TikToks showing that point of view.
medical transition is no place for a child. I transitioned as an adult and I have medical complications. I have mental health issues. Child cannot consent to a medical transition because kids want to eat ice cream every day. It doesn't mean that they should.
Here's a story for you. Yesterday I picked up my 5-year-old nephew from his preschool. It's not the first time I did. So he told me that yesterday his friends asked him if I'm a boy or a girl. So I asked him, what did you tell them? And he said, well, I told them you're my auntie, so of course you're a girl. And I'm like, right. There's some girls who have short hair and there's some boys who have long hair, and that's it. That's all they need to know. They don't need to learn who I like to have sex with, and they don't need to learn there's some mental disorder called gender dysphoria where people are confused about their gender. These are kids and they're innocent. And once you tell them just that fact, that's all. They're accepting you. You don't need to dig their brain and manipulate and confuse them. Have a great day.
You're gonna be popular.
What is wrong with you? When did trans become cool? When did suffering from mental health issues become cool? When? You're literally telling a trans child that because they're trans, they're gonna be cool and popular? You don't think other kids may see that as well and want to be cool and popular too? Let me explain something to you. Stop making a mockery out of trans people. True trans people suffer from a mental health disorder called gender dysphoria, where it is literally painful to live inside their body. There's nothing cool about suffering and pain. Seriously, y'all need to stop. Stop with this crap and leave our kids alone, bro. Like, what, I can't. You wonder why LGBT acceptance is at an all-time low. This is why. Honor your child, but don't make it a cool thing. Trans is not cool. Trans is painful. Stop this.
And like I've said before, I think that one of the reasons why trans kids is one of the most controversial topics, the most hot button thing, is because it's often conflated with, I don't know if you guys remember this, but from the 2000s they had the It Gets Better campaign, and they weren't saying, that it was cool to be gay. They weren't saying this is something you should aspire to be. They were just saying, if you are gay, it will get better than it is right now. You have to wait a little bit, but it will get better. And with trans teenagers and children, the thing that they're telling them is, you will transition or you will die. You will transition or you will die. And they also place trans people into a place of privilege, where you can't question anyone who's trans. You can't question the treatments. You can't question anything without being immediately called a bigot. Being trans is the most marginalized, most oppressed group of all. So in a world that values victimhood, being trans is presented as cool. And for kids who previously would have probably had an eating disorder or been cutting, or maybe just had been goth, this is a way that you can A, fit in, and B, feel special. And the presentation of this, if anyone wanting to safeguard children, who want to say, slow down, let's look at this a bit more, they're being presented as bigots, when it's really just a matter of social contagion and a desire to prevent kids from making mistakes that they don't have the ability to understand yet. When I was a kid, I thought that I wasn't going to live past 16, and here I am at 21, and now I'm realizing that a lot of things that I thought nothing of, like the impact of neglecting my diabetes, is something that I do care about now, because I'm old enough to understand and visualize a future. I'm old enough to understand these things in a way that I couldn't as a child, and a lot of these children will never get the ability to grow up in that way because of puberty blockers, which will prevent them from maturing, from reaching the IQ they could have otherwise had. Not to mention those who will be dealing with medical issues for their entire lives, because being trans creates a lifelong patient. Anyhow, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please leave them down in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about trans kids. As someone who has worked as a nanny for a very long time, kids are my soft spot. I really care about children. I like working with them. I've always felt like a big sister or a cousin with every kid that I've worked with. And recently I cut my hair, and so a lot of kids did, "You look like a boy." And instead of saying, yep, I'm a boy now, I said, well, girls can have short hair too. And within a couple days, they stopped questioning it, they stopped teasing me, and they moved on. No one had the misconception that I was suddenly male because I cut my hair and wear sweatshirts every day. Anyhow, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.